Talking about the operator overloading, we have seen what is the operator overloading and why in C++ operator overloading is there, or what is the use of operator overloading. We have seen in the last lecture, okay, and we have discussed that some rules are there for the operator overloading. Some operators can be overloaded and some operators cannot be overloaded. Okay, similarly we have seen how to overload the unary operator, right? So we discussed in the last example how to overload the unary operator. Unary operator means having only one operand, only one operand exists there. Okay, so we have certain rules for the operator overloading. We discussed that, right? Now we will discuss some examples that how the unary operator with the help of the function overloading. Operator overloading means using the member function, using the member function and using the friend function, how it can be overloaded. Okay, so again we are going to the idea of this operator overloading for the unary operator will be clear, right? Now you can see on the screen that there is one example that is given for, or we are doing this example for operating the plus plus operator. That is, the plus plus operator is the increment operator. What do you mean by this plus plus operator? Whatever the value for this value will be incremented by 1. Okay, so whenever we use plus plus operator, this plus plus operator will increment the value present at that variable. Okay, so that we are going to discuss with the help of operator overloading, and this is the example of unary operator overloading, right? So we have taken one class counter. Okay, so I'm writing here the one variable of this class counter, and this is of unsigned int type. What does this unsigned? Having no sign, that is only positive, it remains only positive. Okay, unsigned means the only positive value, and if we are using signed, that means it is having negative as well as positive value. Okay, so this is the unsigned int is a data type, and we are having the variable count. This is the member variable of class counter. Now what we are going to do here, we are in member functions, we are writing a counter, that is a constructor for this class to initialize the value of count equal to 0. When we write in such a way, okay, when we write in such a way counter, and this is like name, same class name and the function bracket, then it is meaning of this is it is a constructor call. When you are calling the constructor and giving the value to the count as passing value is 0, that means you are initializing the variable count equal to 0. Okay, so the way of calling constructor here. Afterwards, now as you have written the constructor call, okay, afterwards you are writing one more function, that is unsigned int, as it is a data type only. Okay, you can write unsigned int, this is a data type, then get count. Now get count, in that you are writing the return count. So whatever the count value, it will return the count value to the calling function get count, to the calling function get count. Okay, after that counter, now actual increment for the operator overloading. Now we are writing a operator overloading function. Okay, operator overloading function for the plus plus operator, and plus plus means increment operator. It is increment operator which is called as unary operator. Okay, increment operator which is a unary operator. So last time we discussed the minus operator, that was also a unary operator. Now here what we are going to do, whatever the variable count we have taken, I want to increment that. Okay, so I will write that operator overloading function. Now how I will write, I need to take the class name, I need to take the class name, that is a counter, then operator. Okay, class name, why? Because it is a data type. Okay, then operator, the keyword, then which operator you want to overload, the name of that operator. Here we are overloading plus plus operator, so the name of operator is plus plus, then the function bracket. Now we are not passing anything, so there is no parameter passing. Okay, and because we are using the member function, it is a member function. Okay, so when I write the member function, then there is no parameter for the unary operator. Okay, then next is what statement you want here? You want here the plus plus count. Now what does this meaning of plus plus count? It will increment the count value. Okay, it will increment the count value. Now whatever this, you are actually having one copy, that is counter temp value. Okay, now listen here, you are making one temporary counter variable temp, and then temp you are assigning this value of count, giving the value as whatever the object value is there, count value, you are assigning to this temp.count variable. This is a temporary, because it is a data type. Counter is a user defined data type, right? Then you are returning the temp value. Then you are returning the temp value. So whenever you will call for which object, it will assign that or it will return that value. Okay. Initialize one more variable temporary and you are returning the value. Okay. It's like you are in function. It's like in function, you are taking a local variable, you are doing some task and you are returning that value. Function, right? So in main function, where you are writing the counter class name and the objects of counter is C1, comma C2, semicolon. What it is the meaning C1, comma C2, what it makes. So when object C1 gets declared, that means a variable value becomes count value, or the what passing count value becomes 0. Similarly, for object C2 also the count value becomes 0. Then what you are writing here, this is the C1 and C2. This has the nothing but your variables. Okay, this one is your variables.
variable.
Yes, variables means kiski variable? This is a counter class variables.
Counter variable.
Yes. Then you are having a cout statement. C1 is equal to, now C1 is equal to C1 dot get count, and then you are writing again C2 is equal to C2 dot get count. Now get count will do what? It will just return the value of C1. Means here it will just return the value of count, this variable, which is 0, which is 0, right? So these two statements are 0 0. C1 is equal to 0 and C2 is equal to 0. Are you getting this? Initially we have called the constructor, and by constructor call it is initialized to 0 0. Now we are using the increment operator. Just like for integer we can use, here we are using on the user defined data type that increment operator, and you are using the plus plus C1 statement. Is it okay? We are doing this a statement just like a you are using for the integer value, but you are using this for the user defined data type, that is a counter class and its object variable. So plus plus C1 you are doing. Then the next statement is C2 is equal to plus plus C1. Now these two statements are there. Now these two statements are there. As you are doing plus plus C1, the value will be incremented of C1. Value will be incremented of C1 and now it becomes 1. As we have written here, plus plus for that count variable, and you are returning this copy. You are returning this copy. Okay. So same way, once it is done C1 equal to 1. Okay. This will be here, value of C1 becomes 1. Next time, you are assigning C2 is equal to the plus plus C1. Now, the operator which you are assigning here is the unary plus plus operator, right? So what happens here, the value of here increments, C1 value increments, it becomes 2. C1 value increments to 2 plus plus C1, that means it becomes 2, and it is assigned to C2, and it is assigned to C2. Are you
Okay.
getting? Yes, the value
Yes.
is
Yes.
incremented and it is assigned to C2. Then you are now again cout statement showing that C1 value is equal to, you are getting a call for C1 dot get count and C2 dot get count. So the output of this program is, firstly it will show C1 is equal to 0, C2 is equal to 0, and afterwards it will show that C1 is equal to 2 and C2 is equal to 2, right? Yes,
Yes.
understood this one?
Yes, ma'am.
As C1 is incremented first, its value becomes 1. Then again C1 is incremented by 1 here in this statement, and the value of C1 becomes 2, and this value 2 is then assigned to C2. So the value of C2 is a 2 value. This is objects incremented object. Otherwise you cannot do this. If you don't write this statement, see, if you don't write this one, this method, you cannot do this directly. For compiler, when it will scan compiler, it will search for this statement. Okay, when it will scan, it will search for the method call, operator overloading method call, whether it is finding this method. So it will go here and it will find like this is a method call for this particular example. So it will assign this plus plus. Task of this is increment. Increment this and return that copy. Just like you do in a any function, you just take one local variable, you add or you subtract and then return the value. Same way you are doing using the operator overloading. Understood this one? So there is a confusion now. See, we can use prefix and postfix unary operators. We can use prefix and postfix unary operators. So here the same example is written. Same example is written. Okay, but now increment count. This is a prefix when prefix is given, and when we want increment count for the postfix. Okay, there are two definitions written over here. For prefix, earlier example we did for the prefix only. Okay, so now see this example one more time. Class counter, that is same, private unsigned int count variable. Then in public we are writing the counter constructor. Now this is the one of the technique. You can write counter constructor in bracket in braces, indirectly braces count equal to 0. You can like this way also, or you can write the variable passing 0 this way also. Okay, so this is a constructor call, right? You can write like this also, or you can just write counter bracket and then inside this count equal to 0. This way also fine and this is also fine. Okay, constructor call. Then you are writing a next constructor call which is called parameter constructor. Here in int c, int c is the parameter that you pass and assigning the value of c to the count variable. That is constructor call with one argument. Then unsigned int get count, similarly it will return the count. You are just typing a return count statement there. Then counter operator plus plus. Counter is the name of the data type, that is a class data type counter. Then the operator keyword, then the plus plus is the increment operator, and inside that you are returning return counter. Now this is again a counter type. This is a counter type. What you are passing? So plus plus count you are passing. That means you are increment that and you pass the variable value. Now this variable value is count. This is a called as prefix unary operator. Now next definition is counter operator plus plus in bracket int. In bracket int. That means now this time what you are doing increment count. That means your postfix operation you want to do. You want to do postfix operation. So you want here showing that return counter again count plus plus value. Means you require to show here that the count variable has passing and afterwards its value gets increment. Prefix and postfix. यहाँ क्या हो रहा है? It is earlierly it is adding the value and passing. Here whatever the value there it will pass. After that it will increment. Yes. So same way we can have the main to write for this particular example also. We have to write the main function. And after writing main function again the same task is there. You are going to have to first statement counter c1 c2, the two objects of the class counter. Then you are having the values c1 is equal to 2, c2 is equal to 2, and afterwards one more statement is c1 is equal to 3, because after that again it is incremented, but for the c2 it remains 2 because it is a postfix operation. So for that it is passing and afterwards it will increment the value. Afterwards it will increment the value. So that is what the prefix and postfix unary operators usage, and you can clear this with the help of actual execution when you do for this program. Okay, when you do this program and execute this program, then you will get clear what is the prefix operation and what is the postfix operation which we are doing here. Similarly for you, the one more task is there. You have to do this same assignment, rewrite this assignment using the decrement operator. All right, decrement means minus minus. So instead of using plus plus, just use minus minus. Okay, so in the same assignment use the decrement operator. Use the decrement operator like plus plus for the increment. Similarly use the minus minus for the decrement operator. Overload the decrement operator for the same way. Okay, this is your task. Now next